69.
69?
Yep.
So I figured we last episode we attempted to go into how to address things from like the top down or have this like overview effect of self. And I think we might have possibly failed at that for a multitude of reasons.
I like how you said we.
No, I failed at that too. I mean, it's and so this episode I thought, okay, since we failed at that and we're obviously struggling with that. And we've been mulling over this for like a week and a half now. I thought, okay, well maybe we can just like talk about just that. Like, there's this way and you might know it and we know it. Constructively, I guess we know it. Theoretically, we know it.
Right.
And even you can go into that space sometimes. But sometimes with all the good intentions, you still get dragged down. And you don't see it. And then you're once again back to being an idiot. I'm speaking for myself. And, and then just so it really, like, on the surface, it all comes down to the amount of awareness you have in any one moment and how much awareness do you bring into that moment to realize that once again you're functioning out of a pain body or something. What's interesting is even if you're aware, oh look, I am once again hitting myself out of a pain body, or I'm once again communicating with the world out of my pain body. And then, for the last couple of days, I've been trying to like work with that, like acknowledge it, accept it. And then maybe like how much struggle that is.
Yeah, I mean that's basically what I've been trying to do. And it's like at first on your path to spiritual enlightenment, it seems like, some sort of combination of, I'm going to get rid of all my triggers, or they're not going to trigger me anymore, or they're not going to happen anymore, and everything will be great. And it's like, yeah, that isn't really how it works. The triggers are still there. There's still things, and they will always be there. And that's, that's just.
Did you think that within the last week?
No, not within the last week. To begin with,
yeah,
yeah, but they will always be there, and the sooner that one accepts that, the better. And it's really the only thing you have control over is your reaction to the triggers. And so, yeah, like you were saying, if you can be aware that you're being triggered, that's really the first step and the most important step here, because then you have the option to kind of choose how to react. If you're not aware of it, you're just reacting, like I say instinctually, but not in a good way.
Yeah, or just like you go into defense mode.
Yeah.
Resistance mode.
Yeah, I mean, some people go into it, get defensive. Some people get angry. Some people get offensive. Some people, it depends on the person. It depends on the trigger. It depends on the day. It depends on what you had for breakfast. Different people react in different ways to different things, but they're just instinctual, automatic reactions without any sort of awareness or thought behind them.
Yeah.
And everybody does it. I obviously still do it. I did it literally this morning. And I wasn't aware that what was really happening behind the scenes.
Even with something like that?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I with something like what happened this morning, I thought, oh, well, I don't want I don't want it to go wrong or take longer than it needs to. So I'm like, well, we gotta make sure that this is accounted for and this is accounted for and this is accounted for. And that's how I like justified it to myself. But which, isn't necessarily right or wrong, but I guess the energy that I brought to it is what I was not conscious of.
And where does that go?
I guess, I had felt out of control in this situation that we're talking about right now. And over the weekend, it was easy to, the 5-day, Thanksgiving weekend, it was easy to, well, there's nothing I can do, control. And so it was easy to, it didn't bother me over the weekend. It eventually didn't bother me over the weekend once I accepted that there's nothing that I can do. But then today, on a weekday, there is something to be done, and so I guess it flared up again, and that okay, there was something to do. Now we got to do it. Got to do it fast. Got to do it right.
Yeah, but you used word letting go, right? But that was not the word.
Yeah, I did use the word letting go first time. I tried not to this time. Did I this time too?
No, I don't know. I guess the awareness comes into, let's say you are flipping out about a situation in life. But, on a rudimentary level, to begin with, I think we've talked about this a lot. Maybe we need to talk about it again. The easiest way to identify that is your body completely vibrating in some sort of chaos mode.
Maybe because of how much of a flip out I had over the weekend. This didn't feel that chaotic. I mean, obviously it was.
No, but I think this is what we talked about over the weekend is you get so used, and I say you, me, myself too, you get so used to vibrating a certain frequency that sometimes it is chaotic and sometimes it is out of control and sometimes it's uncomfortable. And then the intuitive people around you can feel it and know it. But because to you, it feels like home.
Yeah, because it's all you've ever known.
You're not familiar with how you even functioning yourself.
Right.
It is, if you and I are in this together and we have been working through this for a long time now, and then, I kind of honed in onto my personal space and I know how it feels to be a sovereign being. And then I know what your space feels like. And then the second you introduce something to me that doesn't feel kosher, I'm automatically aware of it. But this morning, when it didn't feel to you like it was a big deal, it is because you're not even aware of it was still the same energy. It was still the same chaotic, chicken running with the head cut off energy.
Yeah.
But you didn't feel it, which is the question, I guess, then is, okay, yeah, it is easier to feel it on a huge influx, like literally where your nervous system is completely shutting down. But what if it's just being poked?
Right.
And there's a difference, right? Like there's a difference. It is easy to gain awareness where you're like, oh my God, my system is just overriding. Like I'm losing it.
No, that I could tell over the weekend. That was super obvious.
But there's a scale at which the awareness has to then also penetrate into parts where you're not flipping out, which is where awareness is easy. But you're still aroused in the same way, just to a lesser extent.
Yeah. I don't remember who it was that said that. Was it the rabbi?
What? I don't know what you're talking about.
That we all kind of have this like baseline level of I don't know, maybe it's anxiety or something, and that it's almost I mean, it's kind of rewording what you said. It's almost uncomfortable to go below that, below being in a less anxiety than that. Maybe is that what he said? Or is that am I rewording it into my own
Yeah, I
thing?
think you're flipping the narrative and then somehow justifying behavior. I know what I said is that the extension that I drew out of whatever I heard over the weekend was that it wasn't the rabbi, it was some other thing that I sent you. His last name is Green. I don't know. But I think it was him. Either way, so the thought that I thought, based on whatever it is I heard, is that he was talking about a state of victimhood, and how in a state of victimhood, we are almost get stuck in it. And then, for all intents and purposes, if somebody were to ask you, well, do you want to continue to be in a state of victimhood and everything that brings along, that person will go, of course not, right? And so even if what I thought is, but this is further past maybe where we were this morning, even if you brought awareness into the idea of like, oh, look, here's how I function when I'm in a state of victimhood. Even though I thought, for me, it's not victimhood. I guess victimhood in a way, because it's kind of like a blanket statement. But for me, the triggers that I have is unsafety, unwanted and rejected. But unwanted and rejected just feeds into unsafety. If I'm unwanted and rejected, then by default, I'm not safe. So they kind of tie in together. But what I was working on this weekend was unwanted and rejected, right? And I thought, okay, look, I'm actually aware that the following action or the following mechanism or whatever this process that is happening within me, in the long run, is just hitting the unwanted and rejected, unwanted and rejected. And I thought, I'm really aware that that is where the energy is going. But despite my awareness and desire not to be there, I'm unaware of how to completely, not say completely, obviously it will still be there, but how to acknowledge it and then, fully embrace it and fully let it go. Right. And I thought that is what I'm struggling with is it's not that I want it to go away, is I want it to be completely accepted by me in its full state. And the body is just having this resistance to accepting the narrative.
That's where I was going with what I started with was that, the I want to call it the naive approach is to just make it all go away. But the real actual goal is to accept it, to integrate it.
Yeah, integrate it, embody it, allow it to be your truth, right? And then from there, just because you welcome it and because you say, yes, look, I have these tendencies and this is me and there's no judgment. And in fact, I welcome it. So that way, next time this tendency comes, I can go, oh, look, Tanya, here you are again, being triggered by rejected and unwanted and designing this narrative where all of a sudden you're going to be accepted and desired. And so therefore, check, I don't feel like shit anymore, right? And so just going through that process over and over, this is again, being in the density of earth and trying to work with it in the awareness standpoint, not from the top on down, but from the bottom on integration. That is something that I thought is so difficult. It is so difficult from the bottom on up, trying to integrate yourself into complete acceptance.
Mm.
And then through that complete acceptance, basically just maybe through, I think, Joe Dispenza talks about the pathways being ingrained, like, oh, this equates to this, equates to that, equates to that, therefore I behave, and these just ingrained patterns of behavior. But it's difficult, want to break them. And then, with me, because I feel so impatient most of the time, it's difficult for me to almost have like grace to myself and to go, okay, this will just take time. There will be, stumbles along the way and that will fail. And then even though I'm aware and I'm wanting it to embrace it and accept it and fully go, yeah, here's my truth. It was just difficult. And I thought, for some reason, this is what I thought. So we were recording this, post the 5-day Thanksgiving weekend. And I thought, okay, well, morphic resonance wise, the entire United States who celebrates Thanksgiving is stuck in triggers, right? Like what does Thanksgiving bring in? It brings in all of these triggers of dealing with human beings around you who are, family, right? But in the long run, human beings who you wished you had a real relationship with, you don't. And then therefore you function the entire weekend in some sort of pretense form of hunky-dory when deep down there's all these unresolved issues. And so whenever that comes into your life, whenever there's this pressure of your system wants to, right now more than ever because of the way the earth frequency is functioning, to release densities that need to be released.
Yeah.
But over the weekend, in this Thanksgiving mode that American culture seems to have adapted, you're supposed to keep everything kosher and happy and lighthearted, and nobody's supposed to fight, and no one's supposed to, raise confrontational issues. But right now, and I'm not even talking about the physical things or the physical narratives that are going on in the world, just Earth has all these requirements to adapt and raise frequency. And so everybody's basically kind of on the edge of a trigger. You and I were not, but you were with the gas meter. Right. And so the system is like you have to actualize, you have to accept, you have to integrate, you have to. And then when you come into the weekend, where for most people, in our case it's not, but for most people, you're triggered by your family, then that suppression either has to take hold and push harder than ever before in order to not have this density come up. Or you have to integrate and allow the truth to flow and have a lot of very uncomfortable conversations. And, but nobody wants to have uncomfortable conversations.
Right. I mean, that's almost a trope of Thanksgiving is that, nobody wants to, but everybody gets together, and then there's all these topics that you don't talk about, and you dance around and everything. That's how many movies have there been?
Oh, and
Christmas too.
We have had podcasts about this too.
Yeah.
I think literally last Thanksgiving we had this podcast. Yeah, but the amplification of your body requirement to de-densify will be harder and harder. And I'm noticing it is not the narrative that I'm designing. It's just a narrative that I'm feeling as a prime directive.
Yeah.
And so because of that, it would be, and I had a conversation with my dad about this for a while. If those people who still will want to remain on Earth would not be able to remain on Earth if they continue to hold density, through whatever way, whatever system, whatever personal design you will have, they will just not continue to be here. And for those who want to remain here, right, the system is like, hey, we need to cleanse, we need to detox, we need to release, we need to, everything that is not said and all the things that you're feeling need to be acknowledged, integrated, and then things have to be mended, right? Like, I'm not saying a relationship has to be restored, but you have to admit the truth about every relationship.
Right.
There's a difference there.
Open.
Well, no, you have to be open to your own truth.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You have to say, yes, here's what this relationship is, or here's how I'm reacting about this thing in the world, or here's what this narrative I'm designing. And you have to accept that within yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
It doesn't actually have to be a physical change of a relationship. Like, relationships can continue being idiotic and artificial.
Yeah.
But you have to accept going, look, I'm in pain and suffering because I want this relationship not to be artificial. And I actually want honesty. And that provides me pain. I'm in pain because I want to have honest relationship with my family members and I can't.
Right.
And that hurts. And that is my truth.
Right.
Integration of how you feel, not necessarily change into the outside world.
Yeah. I mean, with family members or with anything that's bothering you.
Or gas meters.
Gas meters, right? I made myself feel better by, when there's a problem, my go-to is to fix it. That's what I want to do. I want to fix problems and make things better. And so.
But why? I mean, why do we fix problems? I think we spent 68 episodes talking about that.
Yeah. I mean, because, I want to, in the end, I don't feel like I'm good enough. And so if there's a problem, I feel like that reflects badly on me, even when it has absolutely nothing to do with me. But if I can fix it, that certainly looks good on me.
Is that why?
I think that's a lot of it. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, is there a step to recognize that sometimes we create problems so we can look good fixing them?
No, but that there's truth in that too.
A lot of people function that way.
Yeah.
If you feel like, right, if deep down what's actually being poked is, I need to show how good I am, I need to prove how good you are. During Thanksgiving, this is not a shot, but this is something that you do. You specialize in like, oh, I'm the husband that is gonna clean the dishes and like clean up after Thanksgiving. And when people come over, that is what I do, and I'm good at it. Like, you have kind of taken that on as your identity.
I clean up dishes all the time though.
Yeah, but but that is kind of your thing. It became your thing. But right now, I'm not saying it is your thing. But in the past, it was your thing for a very wrong reason.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I see. Okay,
I don't know if it still is. But right. So, sometimes if we get into the pattern of doing certain things, and that pattern to begin with is for the wrong reason, even though we're processing a lot of emotional trauma and trying to actualize and integrate, sometimes we don't realize we continue to do those same
No,
things from years and years
yeah.
back
No, I know
with the
exactly.
same input
I know
energy.
exactly what you're talking about. Yeah. No, I mean, I can see that I have done that definitely in the past. I don't think now it's just like a practical. The stuff has to get cleaned. But
But
there
if
was
Thanksgiving is the time where that is a cyclical nature of operation, and all of a sudden you don't see that in dishes, then you would have to find a different thing to see that in. If you did not let go of the cycle of like, oh, look, here's the time of the year where I show how good I am, right? I mean, I'm not saying that that is the case, but if I had to guess based on your personal upbringing, your family had to show off how good of a family you were during Thanksgiving, right? That is the cyclical nature of things. So come Thanksgiving, we have to be the best family out of all of our family members. We have to show how good we are.
Yeah, that was it.
Suppress, don't feel, put on the happy smile and go and, show off our amazing whatever. I don't know. Right. But that cyclical nature of like, I have to come across as good. I have to be try harder than ever to be loved. I have, do you know what I mean?
I do.
That mindset would just extend, in this case, I'm guessing, into gas meters.
I don't know if it extended to that. I went over expecting it to just turn on and work. I really did. Because why would it not? And then
I know I would not, but do you? I think you do.
I mean, why?
Because you're doing it for the wrong reason. Just like you were with the water heater. I mean, this is literally a repeat.
Yeah. I mean,
A repeat. It's something that you want to do good at. You want to go through and like go, oh, look how good I did.
I guess I didn't really feel like I was bringing that to it. It was just like, oh, well, it needs to be done because otherwise
Then
the
you
pipes
were
are
in
going to
fear
freeze.
of it. It's either you're trying to prove
maybe there
something
was
or
fear
you're
of it.
afraid
Maybe it
of
was,
the
oh,
fear.
I've got to get this done soon because it's getting cold. There was a fear. There was a fear. There was not a show off on this. There was a fear
but
of anything.
regardless of what it is, it's still,
Yeah.
if you bring energy of anything other than kosher love and light, what can positive, right? Then that's the thing. The universe right now will manifest whatever we bring in very quickly. Like things will not work if we're not going into it with the right energy.
Yeah.
And then, the longer you go, this is the part I will say this is the part that frustrates me, is that how much time you spend trying not to be aware of things. It's almost like a fight against awareness.
Yeah. I mean, I do. I don't think I actively try to, but that certainly happens. It's something I am working on, but doesn't always go smooth.
But why? Right. I guess this is what's coming up, I think, for everybody right now. And I'm noticing this is like earthwide, is the amount of resistance we have in letting things go that I know on your end, you do want to let go.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Like just the sheer amount of fight and energy you have to exert to continue to hold on is more than just adapting and allowing yourself to feel the amount of feeling you need to feel.
Yeah.
Because that's what it is. The scales is basically, here's the fear of everything that is here, that is unknown and I'm afraid of. And it could be pain and it could be suffering. And here's the amount of energy I need to put in order not to have this come up, because it's coming up, right?
Yeah.
It's like the scales, the scales of justice. Do you know the image that I'm getting? So on the scales of justice, right? If this is all the suffering and pain and trauma that you have to acknowledge and actualize, and it being your truth, if it's basically coming up, like the universe is going, this is coming up, this is going to be raising up, right?
Mhm.
And then once it raises up, you have to acknowledge it and then have it be your truth. Like quite literally just go into your entire body and allow it to process and allow it to integrate. Like quite literally, I think the system will be integrating and allowing it to roll through and kind of process and weave itself through you. But in order for it not to continue to come up, because the universe is kind of like, pulling this up.
Yeah.
So in order not to have this scale continue to go up, on your end, you have a choice, and this is what everybody's facing, is you need to put equivalent amount of effort to suppress it from coming up. And then this is and how this looks like, if this was a weight, if this is coming up and the universe is pulling, but then in order for it, what this weight looks like to offset it is internal fight, like resistance, like what we talked about, the triangulation energy of the victim empire and the resistance.
Yeah.
This is resistance. It's quite literally heavy fight of down,
Right.
and
To,
down,
to,
and
to keep
down.
it to keep it shitty, which is the ironic part.
Yeah, but like, I guess my question is, do you not feel that?
No, I do. As I was trying to deal with it, I mean, I felt it. I absolutely felt it, and I didn't know what to do with it. I tried to approach it from the wrong way, and like, okay, well, what can I do? I can't do this. They're closed until the holidays are over. Okay, there's nothing I can do. Okay, I can drain the water out of the house. There's something I can do.
No, the wrong
And
way.
I-
The wrong way. No, wait. The wrong way in your case is what I'm talking about. This weight.
Yeah, I know. And that made me feel better, because now my sense of control has been slightly pacified, and it's like, okay, well, there's nothing I can do now other than do this, and then I have to wait. And that helped, but there was still something there. It didn't go away. It was kind of like pacified a little bit. But I tried to release it, and I was unable to. It was like, I don't know how to word this. It's like I completely forget how to do it. It's like I lock up and I forget how to release a stuck energy in
Why
me.
do you lock up?
Right? I mean, is it some sort of, oh, I actually want this? I'm actually comfortable this way? Maybe.
But no, what does lock up feels like to you?
It feels like my mind just, it's a weird combination of being frozen and running at 1,000 miles an hour at the same time. I can't focus. I go into some sort of like, I don't know, ADD mode, and it feels like everything is too much all at once. And I'm like, oh my gosh, and I've got to do this. Oh yeah, and I have to do this work. Oh yeah, and I've got this other thing. And my mind just starts spinning completely out of control.
I mean, it's panic. You're describing panic.
Yeah, I guess it's panic. I mean, I don't have I've had
You're
a panic attack before. It isn't like that. It's more like,
no, it's just panic without the attack.
yeah, but it's like, it's even then it's clear that my mind is like, oh no, I'm not going to let you deal with this. I'm going to distract you with all this other stuff that is not this particular issue. It is, it's like, we're not even going to look at the gas meter. We're going to be, oh my gosh, look at all this other stuff that we have to do. It's like, I can tell it's like playing a trick on me to, don't look over there. Look at all this other stuff. And this other stuff all of a sudden feels super duper important, especially because I've solved the gas meter. Because I can drain the water and there's nothing else I can do.
But that's just you in the panic mode.
Yeah, I guess I didn't realize it was a panic mode.
But then
that isn't the word that ever came to mind.
Yeah, but your idea, what I would describe your normal functionality in trying to avoid things is panic. You just have never identified that within yourself.
What? And so this was happening at night. I'm laying in bed, right? And what ended up actually working was, I'm like, okay, I feel like I have 10,000 things that all need to be done, and I'm behind on all. Am I really? No, but it feels like it, right? And I'm like, okay, I'm just going to go through one by one and acknowledge it and try to release it. And I just went by one. Okay, what else? Okay, I've got this part. Okay, what else? I've got this thing coming up. Okay, what else? And I just one by one. And as I did it, I felt the psychic load on me lessen. Just taking the thing, accepting it, and it felt like releasing it. That actually worked.
Okay. Oh my gosh, that is a lot. Where to start? Okay. Oh my gosh. Whenever, okay, I mean, we have said all of this. I'll just be rewording it in a different way or repeating it in a different way. Whenever you're facing some sort of outside issue that you feel like needs to get resolved, right? And you're stirred, right? Like that, you're like, whoa, right? Like, look. And then your honest effort, your honest conscious effort is like, oh, I want to go in the awareness of what this trigger is actually pulling up, right? That is what you actually want, right?
Yeah. I mean, I did, in as much as I'm like, oh, look, this is a control thing. Here's something that I don't like and I want to control it, but it is now out of my control. And I feel like there's nothing I can do. And I feel like there are consequences. There are, water pipes that might break because there's no heat in the house. But it's like, it became very obvious that it was a control thing.
But what is control?
It's unsafe. There's a risk there. The control is there to mitigate safety.
But mitigate safety. The control is there not to let you feel what is actually underneath of it.
Fear.
Sure.
Yeah.
Let's say fear. And so if you actually went into the fear, right? And like went, oh my gosh, look, allow myself to feel all the, like quite literally all of the pipes in the house bursting. Water just flooding the entire house. The entire house is just flooded with water. It's literally pouring out of second story windows, right? I don't know, like at some point, there's gasoline that gets poured into the water and then there's like a match that somehow gets ignited and now the whole house is on fire together with water. That's it. End of the world. If you actually allowed yourself to go into that scenario, right, you would be able to face the fear that you, in that case, designed. Right. The truth is, I think to mitigate something other than the pipes freezing. Right.
I did the opposite. I'm like, well, it's underground, and underground doesn't get that cold, and so it's probably not gonna. I went through and logicked it out the other way. Like, it won't be the worst case situation.
Don't say that. Don't say that. The other way is what?
I went through and made myself feel better about how it's probably not going to be that bad.
Instead of addressing the panic and the fear that you felt inside.
That's what I did.
Yeah, but again, episode 69, instead of acknowledging how we actually feel, we go into some sort of override mode and try to create the scenarios of why we shouldn't feel that, as opposed to accepting how we feel.
Yeah, that's exactly what I did.
But I'm not sure. Maybe this for the point of this podcast. I don't know I don't know what else to say. Awareness comes down to that you will be triggered by things, and the trigger means actually having an emotional influx that is most likely completely unproportional to the issue that you're facing in the real world.
Yes.
Be it election, be it your mother, be it Bob, be it gas meters, being water heaters, be it, I don't know, whatever. If you feel an influx of something and you're not processing, but your body's going to allow it, needs it to come up, it will bring something into your world that then you can grab onto in the physical sense, right? In this case, physical sense is like heat in the house.
Yeah.
And then you can use that as a tool to go, wait, why am I actually influxing about the gas meter? Right? You don't have to dive into the gas meter narrative. You have to go, what is it actually triggering me? Where do I want to go? Right?
Yeah. I mean, that's completely obvious in hindsight, but it didn't occur to me. I was too focused on the gas meter and everything else that was coming up.
But that is the conversation that needs to happen, is why did you take an outside source in the physical world and ran with it, as opposed to saw where your emotional influx actually was?
Yeah.
And started to address that.
Yeah. Well, that's the awareness.
It's...
Or, well, I mean, there's lack thereof, but...
It's lack of awareness. But the truth, here's what it comes down. Whenever you send yourself into the panic mode, It is your nervous system basically completely misfiring. Like you're just losing it, right? Your nervous system is completely losing it because you're not even addressing the issue at core. But two, your mind is basically kind of like tornadoing out into a clusterfuck of bullshit, drawing off, in fact, drawing even more ridiculous scenarios.
Yeah.
So then your body has a chance to go into awareness and bring up how you actually feel.
Right. No, I mean,
you already, the gas meter was not an issue at all. Whatever you were feeling was already there. You grabbed onto the gas meter as an excuse of why you're feeling this way. We have talked about this all the time. You will go into an outside excuse. You'll blame somebody else. You'll blame whatever, in this case, a gas meter. And then the gas meter will become this thing.
Yeah.
And then on top of that is because you're not addressing the core, the body's like, no, we're not going to let this one go. And so then it's like, guess what? We're going to drag everything else in.
Right.
So your awareness is quite literally going, here's your opportunity, and here's another opportunity, here's another opportunity, here's another opportunity, here's another opportunity. But instead of taking all of those opportunities, you allowed yourself to go into a complete system override.
Yeah. It didn't, I mean, right now it's obvious that all those things that came up were also control things. All things that I feel some degree of out of control over. That's super obvious right now. It should have been obvious the other night. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, to spend 5 days in that, why?
Yeah.
Why?
I mean, whatever I did worked, and I haven't felt bad until this morning. Maybe that just means I've suppressed it.
You just put awareness and flip out on the back burner until Monday morning. That is what you did.
Yeah, that's true.
So whatever you did was just basically justify, oh, it's okay. I can release my system and then hold this flip out session until Monday morning.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I didn't expect a flip out session Monday morning either.
But if you're not even addressing at the core of what was actually arousing you into an influx, into panic mode, then do you think it will ever be acknowledged? Or do you think it will just move on? And in this case, even if the gas issue was resolved, let's say on Saturday and Sunday,
right?
The truth is something else will come up. Unless you resolve this right now.
That's true. That is true.
You will find something else to have the exact same influx on you, except worse, because guess what? The next time has to be harder than the time before.
Yeah. No, it only gets worse if you don't deal with it. I know that much. I know it's frustrating. I mean, since your frustration, I am also frustrated because I know these things. I intellectually know these things. And yet in the heat of the moment, I'm so down in the depths that it doesn't even occur to me to rise above it and look at it from that type of a perspective.
It's not rising above it. The rising above it is just going to nullify it. You have to acknowledge it and integrate it into your system from the bottom on up. And so maybe this is something that we should address is if you have spent 40 years of your life denying integration, right?
Yeah.
And, other people have spent 70 years of their life denying integration. Other people have spent 20 lives denying integration. You have been fighting against yourself. You have been on these scales of justice to your own being. If the energy of the earth or the spirit or the soul or whatever is always going, oh, let me allow you to lift all these things out into awareness. But you have been putting more and more bricks over here on this side in order to weigh this down so this doesn't continue to come up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right? You quite literally have to go through the effort of putting more bricks over here on this side in order to not have this lift up and out, to integrate.
Yeah.
Then your panic mode is just that. The entire panic mode of disasteration of this one scenario that wasn't even a thing is just that. It's just putting more and more crap over here, more and more bricks on this side of the scales. So this doesn't even have an opportunity to come back into awareness and integration.
Right.
But it's because the nervous system, right, goes into haywire the second this starts to come up. Because chances are, the second this starts to come up, it feels extremely uncomfortable. And from the standpoint of awareness and the willingness to face your fears or face your truth or whatever, if you have spent 40 years in denial and determination not to acknowledge that, you have to have that same determination on this end, not to continue put cinder blocks on this scale.
Right. Right. Because, I mean, you're so used to doing it that the opposite feels, well, I mean, I guess it feels uncomfortable to do it anyway. And, you know, most people maybe, I'm so used to shoveling shit on there to keep it down. Right. It's that, despite me knowing better, despite me, do I want to feel out of control and panicky and stuff? No, obviously not. Nobody does. Despite even having, we've talked about this before, I have the tools. I know what to do. I still find myself, not.
Because
I mean, awareness I think is the answer.
Awareness of what?
Awareness that of I was in, just back at the beginning of our conversation, in reaction mode. I was in automatic reaction mode
Because
that's how I've always been.
what if you don't go into reaction mode?
No, I mean, that's the goal, is to not go into reaction mode. The goal is to go, oh, look what's happening to me. Look at that. Isn't that?
Why are you in the reaction mode then?
I feel like I've always been in reaction mode.
Yeah, but why?
Like, that's how I started.
Okay.
I mean, why? Because that's probably some sort of coping technique that I learned early in life, is to do that. And that, I mean, obviously in some capacity that works, that soothes to some degree, right? If it didn't work, people wouldn't do it. So it works at some level, in the same way that alcohol works at some level.
I wouldn't use words probably.
Right. But I say works in the way, alcohol works, heroin works to make you feel better about your issues, but it doesn't work in a good way. It band-aids over it. So it is clearly some sort of, technique that I adapted early, that most people probably adapt early, to keep it down so you don't have to feel it, because it sucks to feel it. But if you can keep piling stuff on it, you don't have to feel it. But eventually there's so much pressure that it's a volcano, and no number of cinder blocks on top of this volcano is going to stop it from erupting.
Do you feel what?
In my case, to feel out of control.
What does it mean to feel out of control?
It's fear. I'm afraid of, right, and I'm afraid of what? There's all these weird nebulous things with maybe the pipes will burst, which logically I know, okay, well, we'll deal with, if that happens, we'll deal with that. But in the moment, it feels so huge and so nebulous and so overwhelming. And, it's, okay, we got all this other stuff I got to do. I don't have time to do it all. Yeah. It feels so much bigger than it is in reality. So it feels big and scary and unapproachable and unsolvable and completely out of control. It feels that big because I've kept it cinder blocked up.
It feels that big because the person who is looking at this issue is a child who does not have any tools or any amount of information or even understanding of what is happening to the nervous system influx that this is generating.
Okay. I mean, that makes sense. It right. It's like, oh, if you tell a 5-year-old, here's all the stuff you got to do, and here's all the things that are going to go wrong if you don't do it, it would be an absolute system overwhelm to them. Whereas any, normal high functioning adult, if you just said this and they're in a normal state, it'd be like, okay, well, we'll take care of it.
Where does the issue need to be addressed?
At the child level, at the inner child level.
But it is a child who's scared. It is a child who does not have the tools, the understanding, much less like the circumvent of the world to even understand of what the situation is.
I can feel that, because that's how it feels. That is how it feels. It's like, as it's happening, I'm like, it makes no sense that I should feel this way about these stupid things. I can tell as I'm going through my, sure, I guess it is a panic mode. I'm going through my panic mode that these are not big issues. There's no justifiable reason for me to feel this way, and yet I feel this way. There's no denying I feel this way. But there was this internal like resistance to feeling this way. It's like, well, I'm not going to feel. I was fighting it, but I'm fighting it because I don't want to feel it. But I'm feeling it because it's from that child perspective. It totally is.
A lot of we follow a lot of people on Instagram, and they have amazing suggestions. Like that rabbi that we follow is just very wise. And everybody talks about like the fear of unknown and the fear of unknown, and it's true. Like, right, what it comes down to is we are afraid of unknown, right?
Yeah.
But I guess nobody connects it to that fear of unknown only exists, right? Because we're not a mature adult who has the tools or the know-how or even like a YouTube channel to look at something and go, yeah, look, I can work through that. Whenever we are afraid of the unknown and the system is in a panic mode and your nervous system is overriding all cognitive thought, is because as a child, we looked at the world as unknown. We did not have the tools. We did not feel like we had even capability or even knew what that meant to step out and understand what is that we're feeling.
Yeah.
And that overwhelm comes from that broken child standpoint. Nobody would be afraid of the unknown if we just recognize this fear of the unknown is coming from me under age of 5.
Right. It is all this. Yes, there is a lot of unknown in the world, but that's okay. What I do, maybe a lot of people do it, is like catastrophize it into some combination between worst case scenario and some sort of nebulous, even worse than that.
You catastrophize it because deep down you're not addressing how the child is feeling.
Right. Because as an adult, if you actually go, well, what could happen? Okay, yeah, this, that, okay, whatever, we'll deal with that. You wouldn't feel it. There's no charge in, okay, a pipe bursts. Okay, we have to fix it. Okay, maybe it's a plumber. Maybe I can do, okay, whatever. There's no charge in that. That's just maybe slightly annoying and maybe some money. That's not a charge. But there's no concrete thing that I thought was going to happen with the pipes. It's just something bad. And something bad is just bad. It is a child view of, I don't know, but it's bad. That's exactly what it was. And from that perspective, there's no solution to, I don't know, but it's bad. There's no, how do you solve, I don't know, but it's bad? You can't.
You heal the child.
Yes. Yes. But when you're feeling it, it feels like it's unsolvable. And that's the spin out point.
The reason why that nobody wants to go into acknowledgement or awareness or actually deep down making you full progress in it is because things are scary and unknown, not to an adult who's making that decision, but to the child who's driving the ship.
So how do you heal the child?
You acknowledge the fact that the child is scared and broken. I mean, I thought, over the last 2 or 3 podcasts, what we have been talking about is going down to the child and addressing yourself and healing the child and acknowledging that the child is there. And you hold the child's hand and you offer it love and you offer it care. And, through the time and space continuum, you could technically go there yourself right now as an adult and go, guess what? I'm here with you. Because time and space does not exist.
Yeah.
And even though you as a 2-year-old, 3-year-old, 4-year-old does not have the tools to solve this and feel overwhelmed, somebody is there by your side to help you with this. Because chances are, if your child is afraid and it doesn't know how, most likely at the time, it did not feel like it had somebody by their side to make sure that everything's okay.
Right. Yeah.
Right? In the normal scenario of the circumstances, which, I don't know if like we're parents, so I don't know if I know we were fucked up back when we were raising our children before 7. So it's too late for ours. But I don't know if there is an opportunity for a child to come into Earth and feel that complete safety and reliance and not develop this pain body system where the child is stuck and broken and they're just in complete fear and mitigation of the unknown.
Right.
And then can basically function in life outside of that initial trauma set.
I've heard it worded so many different ways from so many different people. But the one that I remember was there was this guy and he had a friend, and the friend was this, real player and, real womanizer and go sleep around a whole lot and all this stuff. And he's like, hey friend, I got a question. I have a young daughter. How do I make sure she never ends up with someone like you? And the and the friend's response back was, love her. Make sure you love her. And, there was this phase, maybe some people still think it, where it's like, oh, you got to show them tough love and you got to, make, harden them up and, make them do it themselves and all this stuff. And almost like coddle's not the right word, but don't give them the emotional support. Like almost not kick them out of the house, but emotionally, it's all on them. I think that was like a phase for a while.
I don't know if that was a phase with mothers.
I mean, there's the whole, let them cry themselves to sleep thing. And I think that I don't know. I think that extended even into childhood. It's like, we're not going to solve it. And it doesn't solve their problems for them, but to be there with emotional support.
I mean,
maybe that's just how I felt.
The truth is, there's no need to make excuses. A parent cannot be there for emotional support if they're not emotionally supporting themselves. How can a parent do justice to raising a child to where they don't come up as fucked up as you are if you're not even acknowledging all the ways that you're fucked up? And that's where we were. When we were raising our children, that's where we were. We're fucked up. We're trying not to feel what we feel. We're drinking ourselves to death. Whatever. Fucking around. Whatever. Instead of actually acknowledging what you actually feel on the inside and healing the broken child that you are, so then you don't have to take this broken child and make your child, another version of you. That's it.
Yeah.
The responsibility of a parent is to heal themselves. And that is the only way you can raise a proper child to where they don't have the same fucked up worry as you do. There has to be this momentum of energy, determination into that. And if nothing else, that is a huge motivational factor. If it is too late for me and I'm going to die if I can idiot, then maybe I can instill some wisdom into my child to have them see how healing of self looks like. I have already fucked them over, but guess what? They still have a life ahead of them where they can learn, like, oh, look, mommy and daddy went through this 10 years of complete fucked upness where they were addressing all of this painful shit that they were not addressing for 40 years before in order to not be broken. If that is not a determining factor into, look, I want a better future for my son, for my daughter, for their children. So when they have their own children, they don't have to start over with zero like you and I did. And then actually be on the path of allowing yourself to be acknowledged emotionally as a broken child. Do the due diligence and commit to the fact that, guess what? It's going to be hard. There's going to be a system override, but I'm okay facing whatever it is I need to face, not with me as a logical adult who has everything solved, because that's shit. Nobody has everything solved. But as a child who feels overwhelmed, who feels like the system is broken, they're broken, and then honestly, they feel completely helpless to even know how to address the world. And that's okay. And that is truth.
And that's okay. I think that might be the most important part of the whole thing. And that's okay.
Because that is my truth.
Yeah. That's everybody's truth. Nobody wants to admit it, but that's everybody's truth.
But the whole point of awareness or awakening or enlightenment or gnosis or whatever you want to call this is just to accept yourself as you are.
Yeah.
including the broken child who's afraid. And I know people are like, oh, everybody's afraid of unknown and everybody's afraid, whatever. The unknown is only there because that is the child over exaggerating an issue of right now.
Yeah.
In this moment right now, like when Eckhart Tolle talks about the present moment, in this moment right now, what is unknown? Well, fuck, everything is unknown. But you have to go, but guess what? I am okay in the gnosis of myself, knowing that I might be afraid of something.
Right.
Because you can reach out into the world and go, guess what? I don't know, whatever, you name it.
Right.
Trump will, I don't know. And Putin will, I don't know. And whatever the Israeli dude, I don't know. You can literally spend your lifetime reaching out for all of these scenarios of how something can go wrong. But only thing that is your child basically crying on the within because it needs to be healed. And instead of acknowledging the broken child within, you're going into the world and justifying why it's okay for you to feel these fears that are completely not true, circumstantial, and might never even come into fruition. Because if the world were to end tomorrow, guess what? None of that fucking matters. But what does matter is you being at peace with yourself. And the peace only comes from when you heal the child within that only wants to go, you know what? It is okay. Everything's okay. This might feel overwhelming. This might be scary. I might be afraid. But it is okay. And just hold that child's hand.
Beautiful. No, I mean, that's it. I mean,
we're episode 69 in.
I know. Problem solved. Right? I mean, what's funny is that we all have the different things that do it, right? It's like, okay, well, the war in Ukraine and Israel, but oh my gosh, the plumbing thing. I know it isn't about the plumbing thing, but that's the thing that pokes you. Do I have any control over the wars? No. Do I have any control over the plumbing? No. But that's the one that sunk in to spark it all up. That's the thing that blew up the volcano. But everybody will have their own little thing.
It's not their own little thing. It's whatever you choose to grab onto that will be in most resonance with whatever you're feeling.
Sure.
It completely
I know. It doesn't matter what it is. It's completely irrelevant what it is. If that didn't happen, or that had gone smoothly, or that was never even a thing, then it would have been whatever's next on the list. I know that.
Whatever else would be in some kind of proximity of the frequency and the resonance that you're not releasing.
Yeah. Yeah. I get that. I know. Even then, I knew it wasn't about that. I knew that, and yet, I don't know. I handled it very poorly.
No, but the only reason you're handling it poorly, again, I want to emphasize this, is because for that space to fully be acknowledged and released and not be masked off by an outside story or narrative or whatever, for you to fully actualize yourself, is you have to be willing to go into the space where it hurts. And the complete scenario that you designed for yourself, and then the complete panic mode and spin out, was because you were fighting off to go into the place where it hurts.
Yeah. No,
the aversion to everything, the reason why it was getting bigger instead of smaller, is because you're not willing, and this is what I want to point out, is you're not willing to go into the broken child of self where it actually can be addressed and mended and integrated. No amount of time, this is what I was going to say, is, I, from my standpoint of development, now want to go, and maybe this is my fault in that, because the podcast is not ready to go there, is because I want to go into the spin to end point of where we're from the up, looking at ourselves as a wholly integrated being, and then seeing the world through the reflectory version of that. But the reason why it's not happening, even though I'm trying to bring it into the podcast, is because I myself and you are both not ready, because there's not a full system of us that has been integrated from down on up in order for us to be able to congeal ourselves into this oneness of a wholly accepted integrated self, to where that we can function from the up on down.
Right. I mean, I touch on it from time to time, and it's really nice and it feels great. But at the same time, it feels escapist almost, which I don't think it is. Well, I guess it could be, but I don't think it really is. I think that's almost like fear of it.
Fear of what?
So the other day I did this meditation where I don't know what it was, but I worked on it down here. Okay, and then I
It was not loved.
Hmm?
It was not
no
loved.
yeah, and then I went up. I went up and I looked at it down there, and it feels so different. It's not an issue. It's like not an issue. It's like not a thing. There's no charge. There's no problem. Oh yeah, I'm literally going where oh, I don't feel the problem. Where's the problem? There's no problem. Where's the problem? There's no problem. And I'm like, oh, there's no problem. I was like, it kept coming in my head. There's no problem. And like, as if that was a problem. I would hear there's no problem. And then I'm like, but I've got to find it. There is no problem from that perspective. And then, back down here, it's like, well, but there are problems you got to deal with, and there are plumbing issues, and there are this and that. And it feels down here, it feels like that could be this escapist, like, I'm just going to pretend there's no problem. But it isn't pretending there's no problem. It's living life where, not that there aren't things you need to do. There are, I guess, 3D issues that need to be dealt with. The car needs to be fixed. The plumbing needs to be whatever. That doesn't necessarily change, but it isn't a problem. It doesn't, what was the word that they used? That was great. Disharmonize? It doesn't disharmonize you. There's no charge behind it. At that level, things aren't triggering you, and or if they trigger you, you realize it and release it.
But that's what from living on from top on down means.
Right.
And you can, on earth, we will continue to live. For those who choose, we will continue to live in our 3D physical form. And if you incarnated here when Earth was, in its heyday of pain body design, it will still be there. The only difference will be is that you will integrate yourself and just see through the nuance of it. So yeah, disharmony works. Because your entire system is always in harmony. And then the disharmony gets introduced is when you choose not to see yourself for who you really are and try to pretend to be something else. I don't know if the metaphor carries, but if these scales were just to be not be weighed down by determination into unacknowledgement, right? And you just allow the scales to just completely come up, right? You would release, like quite literally, just like release all charge, almost like the scales turn into a catapult. And you just catapult them away into any density that would cause you to get dragged down and be lost, which is what you were. You were once again lost in the narrative. Like whatever narrative, like it doesn't even matter what the narrative you were designing. The more narratives you design, that's the more bricks you were piling on onto this other side of scales in order to keep this from coming up. Just allowance into acknowledgement of how you actually feel. And, I think we brought this up on the previous podcast and the podcast before, but we are always running away from how we actually feel.
Yeah. I mean,
And what's more important is we're running away from how our broken child feels on the inside. Because that child has no tools, no understanding, or not even a perception that there is such thing as like just allowing yourself to have the nervous system go into this haywire. I mean, the point of us doing yoga every day and meditating every day is that we are able to have the nervous system go into an influx, right? Because if you're in some sort of pose and it's triggering you, right? But then at the same time, we're regulating our breath. The system goes into the influx, but then you're learning how to soothe your nervous system in order to calm it down and see through. In this case, give yourself opportunity into awareness that this does not have to be a panic attack. You can soothe yourself. But then through that skill set of just soothing, you can go, well, guess what? I don't even have to learn to soothe myself as an adult. I can go all the way down to where I'm as a child, a broken child. You can go that deep. But you have to have the determination. Like with me, that is what it comes down to. The reason why I get so frustrated with you or with your inaction is because the only thing that showcases to me is that the tenacity or the amount of energy that you have to overcome yourself with in order to allow yourself to feel like shit and see the broken child within you is less than the amount of energy you're willing to put on of a fight,
right.
Which is actually more draining.
Right. No, it is more draining. Right. I mean, I know that. I intellectually know that.
But
this
is what I want to point out, and this is why I get frustrated with the world, I guess. But is because it all comes down to internal strength. Determination is just an internal strength. And I'm not calling everybody a pussy, but it just comes down to, maybe this is the Soviet attitude within me. But it's like, yeah, you got to have the grit. You got to have determination to not bullshit yourself. It really comes down to it has nothing to do with anybody other than you having determination to overcome your own being. If 40 years of inertia has been going around, how do I suppress myself from feeling things and acknowledging and admitting to myself being a broken child? If that is 40 years worth of inertia, then there's got to be 40 years worth of determination, inertia-wise, to overcome your own self.
Yeah.
And they go, yeah, guess what? That is my truth. But I have enough determination and enough requirement of self to go, yeah, I don't want to live that way anymore. Like why so many people don't like Teal Swan and Bashar whenever Daryl channels is because whenever their higher self comes through,
it's
right? It's very that. And they're like, you people, like quite literally, the notion is you people. And people are like, yeah, I know, I have tried. And then Bashar is very adamant about it. He's like, yeah, guess what? You're not trying hard enough. And nobody wants to hear that. Nobody wants to hear it because at that point, when you hear you're not trying hard enough,
it's your fault.
There's no one else to hold responsible.
It's your fault. It forces you to take accountability. If you're gonna hear that,
yes, but
it's a slap in the face.
How, in my case, how I have spent last 40 years living has been by blaming somebody else for my problems.
Yeah.
And as long as we put somebody else as as the fault of our problems, either the gas meter or the weather or the gas company or whatever, you are never taking accountability for, wait, why do I even feel this way to begin with? And like, wait, what is the energy that is holding me in this determination to outsource this problem into the physical reality, as opposed to going, wait, how hard am I fighting to keep this from being completely on me, being my responsibility, and then me going, yeah, look, this is on me. This is completely on me. This is my responsibility. This is my fault. This is completely how I feel. And chances are, if there's much influx of me trying to fight the world for something, that means I'm trying to fight myself on the inside for something. And if I'm fighting myself on the inside, I'm trying to run away from something. And if I'm running away from something, chances are whatever's on the other side of that door that I'm fighting really hard to keep closed hurts a lot. What is it actually that is hurting inside? How am I hurting inside? And the chances are you won't even be able to identify because it's so nebulous, because it is a child trying to keep that door closed, because child is quite literally does not have any tools or mental capacity to even actualize of what it means to have logic or understand an emotional scale or to even admit to the fact that they're afraid and they feel like the world is out there to get them. That's it.
Yeah.
Like, it's a child who's afraid and they feel like there's no one there to help them. And they feel overwhelmed because, one, they're incapable because they're what? Guess they're under 5 or under 7. And then you don't even know what the emotional capacity that you're feeling right now that would allow you to self-soothe. You're not able to self-soothe.
Right.
So you suppress and put away. And when you suppress and put away, that nebulous, I don't even know what I felt back then, is still there.
And it grows.
Well, it grows because you never addressed it. But the chances are the addressing of it is as simple as, I'm just scared because I don't even know what the fuck I need to do to feel comfortable right now. I'm in the complete override mode. That panic that you felt is what that child felt like, what you as a child felt like without any definition.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's a familiar feeling that I can trace back to my when I was a wee lad.
Yeah, but wee lad, like, it's just panic, period. Like, the word ends at panic. Fear, like system override, the nervous system is in a complete override. I mean, think about it. It is your nervous system in the override. Today we did a meditation or the yoga that allowed you to basically build strength into your nervous system. But the Kundalini, why I love Kundalini so much, that you hate so much, is because that is what it does. It pushes your nervous system to where you have to develop this wavelength and to overcome the next cycle. Right? But the reason why you don't like it is because it pushes your nervous system. It pokes your nervous system. And you're like, whoa, we're not going there. But that is the tenacity and determination or the grit that you need in order to then be able to, in real world life, go, oh, guess what? My child's nervous system is being overridden. As a child, I'm going in panic mode. I don't know what's happening. And then you go, okay, well, guess what? Now I have a tool to overcome my nervous system and I can soothe myself as a child. I can go into that space. I can allow myself to go into that space as a broken child because I'm able to have my nervous system actually reach past this threshold that in the past I wasn't willing to go, and then touch myself as a child.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it does.
You will not touch yourself as a child if you do not determine yourself to have the strength, if you do not build up your nervous system to have the strength to go into that space where the child actually is. I mean, that is extremely important. The reason why you didn't go there and you decided to design this other narrative and run away from yourself is because your nervous system does not have the strength to allow you to go there.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. I can feel that.
But when I use the word nervous system, that is your physical defense system. Your nervous system is quite literally acting as a defense system for you not to go there.
Right.
It literally sends your system into complete override to where you're like, oh my God, oh my God, I don't even know what is happening.
No, I mean, I think that's what I said, is that it felt like it was all, we're gonna just throw everything at it in order to overwhelm and almost distract you. Like, I felt like, had it even occurred to me to do this, I don't know, but it was like, here's just a distraction with everything that's possibly wrong in your life right now, everything that you're overwhelmed with, everything. And I almost couldn't even focus on any one thing. Which, yes, I mean, it is a defense system.
It's a defense system because, one, you're not willing to face the uncomfortable. 2, the tenacity and the grit is the same thing as a strong nervous system. They're equivalent.
Yeah.
Right? So you're not willing to have the grit, the strength to go into the place where it hurts a lot. But again, only reason why it hurts a lot is because there's a child there who doesn't know what the fuck is happening.
Yeah.
So natural yogic way to allow yourself to go into those uncomfortable places is to strengthen your nervous system through Kundalini, through Ayurvedic yoga, whatever, in order to allow yourself to have that naturally in order to go there or increase your breath pattern, whatever you want to call it. But you have to have the determination to do that. You have to want that for yourself.
Yeah.
Like, and whenever Bashar or Daryl channels Bashar, when he says like it is a choice, and people don't want to believe that.
No, that's hard. It's hard to hear. I know it's hard to hear because it's like, oh, but then it's my fault, and then it's my responsibility, and I have to be accountable for it, and nobody wants that. I know. I can relate.
But in your case, you do want that.
Yeah, I do. What? Which way?
I don't know, overcome your own system. Overcome your idiotic overrides.
Yeah, no, I mean that is definitely what I want.
I don't know if it feels like, and you tell me like, I'm like the most determined person to plow through myself, right? But it's almost like the scale, right? The scale of this being pulled up, it is a natural progression. There's natural progression. But the tendency for you to override the scales and be plopping, cinder blocks over here on this side in order to not allow the system to naturally progress is just all based on how many cycles in your life have you spent plopping cinder blocks on.
Right. Yeah. No, I have a lot of cycles, and I've gotten very, very good at that. Yeah. The danger is that it is like second nature to me. It's like a habit to me to do that.
But that's everybody.
Yeah, that's everybody.
Self-defense mechanism of putting cinder blocks instead of allowing the system to just integrate.
It is in this. I mean, in the same way you get punched in the nose and you. It is my, most people's, I imagine, reaction. Immediate, no thought to it reaction. Which is back to where awareness comes in. Because if you're aware of, oh, look what I'm doing again, then you have the opportunity to break out of that cycle.
But I've told you this before, and I will repeat it again, I guess, for the sake of a podcast. The easiest way for somebody to see through that, to go, wait, what if this is not something on the outside? Whatever influx I'm feeling, and it's about the gas meter or whatever, what if I just take responsibility and go, what if I don't allow the gas meter to be the excuse? What if I don't allow the outcome of Ukrainian war or the Israeli war or the Trump or whatever, or global warming or increasing water levels, or whatever. What if I do not let myself to take an outside world as an excuse? And I do not allow that to be my answer.
Right. Then it forces you to go inside. And it's like, well, what do I actually feel?
That's it.
Yeah.
But that is the easiest way to go. What if it's just me? What if it is not the outside world? What if I cannot go into the world and go, well, look, no, it's this. That's obviously this. No, this is just a trigger that then forces you to go, I can run with this trigger and get lost in it. Or I can just go, yeah, no, let's just go back inside. What if it's on me? What if it's on me? What if it's on me? But you have to choose that. You have to choose to look in as opposed to grab on to the outside world for excuses.
I almost need to write a little Post-it note and keep it in my drawer next to me. And I'm like, okay, that's right. That's what to do. Right. My tendency is in the thick of it, I won't go there. I won't think to go there. I know that.
But that's a choice.
Yeah. And like, in order to like help.
And I think that your nervous system is overriding your cognitive ability to even go there. Right. But once again, you have to have the strength, the tenacity in order to overcome your own being.
Right.
What does it take for you to overcome your own self?
It might take a Post-it note to future Elliot.
I don't think it will take a Post-it note. I think it takes determination. I think it takes tenacity to want better for yourself. The truth is, if you do not have the tenacity to want better for yourself, you're stuck in the cycle and the pattern of unintegrated living. And that's not going to last for all that long.
Right, for various reasons. But yeah.
Yeah. I mean, one, for just transitions of Earth. Two, it is a lot of work to keep yourself blind.
Right.
And right now it's more work than ever. The system is prone to have you integrate. That's it. The system is like, guess what? You're on the path of integration. And that
you're buckled into the roller coaster. It's already on its way.
Yeah. So the amount of work that you have to do in order to have the system not be integrating into you, so that you can ascend your awareness and then basically be able to live from up on down.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know whether I guess the reason I say this is because what is the motivational factor that you have inside of you that would give you the strength and tenacity to overcome your own being?
I don't know. I'm going to have to find that.
Yeah, I don't know. You know, I can tell you, I mean, I have told you this many, many times. I use Kundalini and as the strength builder. I mean, one, I already have a lot of it, just from the survival standpoint. But you have to see through what is the alternative. What is the alternative on the other end not to take responsibility and to go into the triangulation mode of either being the resistance, being the victim, or the empire, and just be lost in that narrative. To me right now, it's like there's just no benefit. There's no benefit to be there.
It's super easy and obvious right now to go, yes, that it's just dumb. It makes no sense. There's no upside. It's all downside.
I guess the question is for someone who's making that choice of not to take responsibility. Because the truth is, not taking responsibility is only there because you do not want to feel the pain that you have been avoiding to feel for a very, very long time. So that's it. The only reason you're not taking responsibility is because you don't want to feel the pain of the broken child who's spinning out of control. So if you just look at the scenario such as that, that's it. The only reason I would not take responsibility is if I'm not willing to see myself for who I actually am and to acknowledge all of these things within me that are actually true. You're running away from yourself.
Yeah.
I under what circumstances would anybody choose to run away? How much time can you spend running away from yourself? It's just ridiculous.
No, it is. It is. I mean,
on top of the fact, I will say this: it feels really, really good to allow yourself integration. Like the amount of release and the calmness and the peace that you get from just stop running away from yourself and just to go, oh my God, it is okay. It is okay that I'm scared. And it is okay that I feel unwanted. And it's okay that I feel rejected. And your body just goes into this stasis of peace and harmony. And you're like, oh my gosh, I don't have to fight my own self. Because with me, I guess this is what it has been with me. Because I am so determined on both ends to fight myself against myself, there was a lot of fighting. There was so much fighting, and it was so much. And I'm like, oh my gosh, the system, I have no idea how I'm still alive at the age of 40. If that is the amount of fighting I had to put on in order not to acknowledge all of the bullshit that I was refusing to acknowledge about myself. I'm actually truly amazed that I'm still alive.
Yeah,
because the amount of energy that took, oh my God. It is incredibly idiotic. And I cannot help to see myself as a complete idiot and a moron and not even acknowledge how much exhaustion I was experiencing trying to not feel myself. Just that. Just go, oh my God, it's exhausting. And, and if you're intuitive like I am, to see other people be that exhausted is exhausting.
It's hard to go out.
No, right? Like that rabbi was talking about like how what is the politically correct term to call people who are on a spectrum?
Neurodivergent.
Yeah, sure. He was talking about how exhausting it is for neurodivergent people to go out into the public because the amount of drainage they receive from trying to fit into the norm, right? But I think it's bigger than that. I think it's completely bigger than that. I don't care if you're neurodivergent or a foreigner like myself, or just a straight out idiot, that's what it comes down to. If you are just not acknowledging yourself and not accepting yourself to be neurodivergent, an idiot foreigner like me, or just an idiot without the foreign concept, whatever. If you're just at any point not accepting any notion of yourself, which is quite literally 100% of us. I don't even care what your excuse is. Like, you don't even have to have this excuse. All of us are at some point walking around not acknowledging our broken child.
Yeah.
That's it. So the reason why we're exhausted is not because we're neurodivergent, not because we're idiot foreigners, not because we're just idiots, or not because we're afraid or whatever. We are just not acknowledging our own being. And we're somehow taught this is not a social norm. It has nothing to do with social norm. It's not because we want to belong in a social norm and then therefore we're walking around going shopping, pretending to be someone else. No, it's because for the last 40 years, I've spent time trying to run away from me. Not because I'm afraid that it will not be accepted by society. That is just an excuse I'm using to go into the outside world to pretend like that is why I'm running away from myself. But the truth is, I'm just running away from myself because it hurts. It hurts for me to acknowledge that I feel like shit on the inside and I feel broken and I feel overwhelmed and I feel like I don't know, because the child within me, guess what? It just says, I don't know. I don't know. That's what the child is saying. I don't know. And with me, I have an excuse of, well, guess what? You're weird. You have been weird from birth. Guess what? You're Ukrainian now living in America, so you're a foreigner. All of those are just excuses I could use to say, oh, well, here's why I shouldn't act this way or that way or this way or this way, right? I'm neurodivergent, whatever. All of us have these labels we have placed on ourselves that are not true. None of it is true. Even if you're neurodivergent and even if you're on the spectrum, all it is an excuse of why you're going, yeah, so that is why the real me cannot come out.
Yeah. Yeah.
But all of that is you, once again, not acknowledging that the broken child inside is just afraid.
Yeah.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Afraid of
just facing me. To say, yeah, guess what? I'm fucked up. And it's not because I'm Ukrainian. And it's not because English is my second language.
At the wrong level, I'm afraid that other people will see me or think something or I won't fit in or whatever. But the real reason is because
I don't want to see myself.
Yeah.
Because if you're neurodivergent, the excuse you use is at some point your parents or your special needs therapist or whatever has told you that the way you are is not okay. And then therefore you have to be some other way in order to feel safe, loved, belong, wanted, and desired. That's it. So you're walking around with a slew of excuses. And the reason why we're being diagnosed to shit with a neurodivergent spectrum shit is because all the narrative that we're designing to ourselves is more center blocks on top of why I cannot walk around just being myself. Oh, well, guess what? I'm weird and I'm socially uncomfortable. Or, oh, I'm foreign. And so foreignness in me is not going to be accepted in America. That was my truth. When I moved to the United States, that was a narrative I designed. Oh, I'm Ukrainian. Therefore, guess what? I'm just not myself. No, that's just an excuse out. That is a narrative out that I grabbed onto to allow myself to feel like, here's why I am exhausted. No, that narrative of exhaustion started when I was a child going, I'm just fucking afraid and I don't know what the fuck is going on.
Yeah. No, I mean, and
that's okay.
Yeah.
I don't have to make an excuse of Ukrainianism or English my second language or this country won't accept me or I'm on the spectrum or I'm ADHD or I am whatever. World hears me and I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
I'm fucked up. And that's okay. I'm a broken child. In this case, without any definitions, I'm just a broken child. And that's okay. We cannot reach into the world and grab onto these excuses of why we cannot be ourselves, why we will not accept ourselves, why we will not go deep enough past the nervous system overload and just acknowledge that, guess what? This is just me. It's okay. The world does not have to accept me. In fact, it's okay.
Yeah. Just I mean, it's okay is the key term here. And it doesn't matter what it is.
But you have to feel that.
Yeah.
You
'Cause
have
it's
to
scary.
feel the broken child
yeah.
inside and say, it is okay. You're weird? That's fine. You're Ukrainian? That's also fine. You are mixed race that doesn't have a definition? That's also fine. But at the same time, all of those are just excuses for you not to acknowledge who you are, which is a broken human inside. There's only one definition. You're a child. You deemed yourself to be broken, unloved, unwanted, undesired, unsafe. And that is where you're coming from. That is where your brokenness is originating. Doesn't matter what your story is. Neurodivergent, white, black, rainbow, Ukrainian, American, Israeli, whatever. It doesn't actually matter. All of those as constructs and narratives and excuses or a gas meter. It doesn't even matter. I'm just a child inside who's broken. And that's the only thing that matters.
Yeah. And if you can acknowledge that and accept that.
That is where integration takes place.
Yeah.
Your love of self, regardless, without going into the world and seeking excuses of why, which is just an excuse. You're exhausted because you're not accepting yourself.
Yeah. Fighting yourself, that's the hardest battle to fight.
But you are. I mean, I am.
We all are.
When
sure.
I feel unwanted and undesired and I don't acknowledge that as my truth, that is the only thing I'm doing.
Yeah. You feel it. It's there. How conscious you are of it may vary, but it's certainly there as a pressure, as an influence on your life.
And it's exhausting to not acknowledge that you feel that way. That's what I want to exercise, and that's what I want to beat in. And if anything comes out, it is exhausting. There's no way out of this. There's no way to feel better, actually, than stop to fighting yourself. Just allow yourself to be okay with you. I mean, the thing is, everybody, like, I can give you 100 reasons of why I can justify feeling like that.
Yeah.
But they don't matter.
Yeah. That's the thing. It is so easy to find reasons in out in the world, other people, politics, or the gas meters or whatever. Oh, I was born, with condition X, or whatever. It's super easy. It's human nature, it seems, today to here's all the reasons that I feel this way.
But that has been human nature all along, to go on the outside, find the reason why we feel this way and not acknowledge what they're actually feeling.
But that's you're the victim in that case. I'm the victim to the gas company. I'm a victim to the weather, social norms, the politics or the war or the whatever. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't even matter. Like, it actually doesn't matter, but it's exhausting. And the human system, the physical system, quite literally shuts down the more time we spend denying integration.
Yeah.
Acknowledgement of our truth.
Yeah, it does shut down. At the very least, it influxes cortisol into our systems, which is not healthy. We live in, constant chronic stress. Bad for your heart, bad for all of you. Yeah. It's like the frustration that I feel is that it's so simple and straightforward. It's like, the clarity, me sitting right here, the clarity over, well, this is not, it's not complicated. Doesn't necessarily mean it's easy.
It's not easy.
But it's simple. It
isn't easy
complicated.
Because it is you fighting yourself.
Right. And I just talking about myself, I am a very good mental gymnast, and I can come up with all these contrived things.
But everybody is.
Yeah. Yeah,
You
sure.
have spent 40 years mental gymnasticking yourself.
Yeah. And
Other people have spent 70 years.
it is really serious if the water pipes burst. And there's all these justifications. Some maybe more valid than others, but there's all, especially logical things I can pile it up on, and I can sell myself a really good story.
That is the mental labyrinth.
Yeah.
Yes, we all know how to live in the mental labyrinth.
Yeah.
Okay. Some of us are more clever than others. I know people who are very clever. Is that the choice? Just to stay buried in the mental labyrinth, or to go, I wonder if there's just a broken child underneath of it all crying.
Yeah.
And just go there. Be willing to go there. And this is the part that is frustrating to me. This is where I get frustrated. Is that how many people try to make awakening, gnosis, awareness so complicated, only to make excuses for the self of why they don't have to go and face the broken child.
Yeah.
The entire self-awareness or personal growth or whatever the industry is called is there piled on as a big clusterfuck of excuses of why this is so big and this is unapproachable and this is undoable. This is not doable because deep down, what we don't want to do is take responsibility and acknowledge the broken child inside.
Right. And there are a handful of people, I guess Teal Swan and Bashar certainly, who were like, yeah, no, just it's you. Stop it. Stop it.
But no, and this is the frustrating part, right? Like I was told that I am too direct and too in your face and too abrasive in order for the world to accept me, right? Because nobody wants to hear that it's their fault, right? And I'm like,
yeah, but it is their fault.
No, and what I'm saying is, here's what I'm saying is, unless you're willing to hear that truth, that is the only way you're going to continue to stay alive, be healthy, and actually be happy. So if I'm not abrasive, and if I'm not in your face, and if I'm not saying this is your fault, and just like I'm saying to myself, it is also my fault. I'm as fucked up, but it's also my fault. If I don't have that tenacity and that strength within me to put that message out as truth, then I'm doing injustice to anyone who I'm speaking.
Yeah. Right.
I would not be doing justice if I went, yeah, but being neurodivergent is kind of, a real thing. And those gas meters, if the pipes burst, it is, it could really damage the house and it could cost us thousands. What the fuck? Just face yourself.
Right.
It's injustice for me to say anything other than the truth. And the truth is, I am responsible for myself. And if somebody doesn't want to talk to me, guess what? That's on me. But what's important is how do I feel about it?
Yeah. It's a separation between yourself, how you feel about yourself, and whatever's going on in the world. There may or may not be burst water pipes, but that is irrelevant from what's going on inside of you. There may or may not be a war or the election or whatever it is. All those things, the world keeps spinning with or without you. That's out there. But what's going on in here? And don't go looking out there for excuses. They're triggers, but they're not excuses.
Yeah. I mean, and I guess it's 69 episodes in. But
still here.
Exactly.
We're still
on the same topic over and over.
Right.
And it's because the tenacity into responsibility of self, that the grit that we need to have is an internal strength to face yourself, right? Joseph Campbell's, hero's journey is when the dude goes out there, or the woman goes out there, it's a dude, but it's the same thing. And they face the dragon. The dragon is themselves, right? You go out there in the world, but the world is you. You
Right.
have to go out into your own world, which is
Yeah.
the dragon. And when you face the dragon, that is you. And when you slay the dragon, that is you deciding to slay yourself. And
Right.
that is
Slay,
when
you
you
mean integrate.
integrate. Yes,
Yeah.
in this case, integrate. Just accept yourself for who you are.
Right.
And when you die, when the hero dies, is because they allow that unintegrated portion, that resistance that they had within them to completely dissipate and disappear. And you're no longer fighting the dragon.
Right.
In fact, maybe the better metaphor is you become friends with the dragon and you fly off back to your kingdom and go, guess what? I didn't have to slay the dragon. I just had to give fucking love to the dragon. Maybe we need to rewrite Joseph Campbell's story.
It's Shrek.
What? Yeah, there you go. It's Shrek. It is Shrek. Joseph Campbell's story should be rewritten to Shrek. You marry the dragon. You become in love with the dragon. And the dragon comes back home with you and you go, guess what? There was never an enemy to fight.
Right. No,
Maybe
I mean,
make
it's,
this the snippet, right? We don't have to slay anything. We just have to give it love.
right. I mean, it's all the things that we see out in the world that are the problems. Those are the Jungian projections that we do. Oh my gosh, I'm so bothered by this gas meter problem. It's, well, okay, I'm projecting this control situation onto this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it comes down to a Shrek.
Yeah. And so all the things that we're fighting out in the world, like you said, are all the things that we're fighting in ourselves.
Yeah. From the Joseph Campbell standpoint of slaying the dragon, that is a metaphor, I guess, to have the strength to fight off something. But the truth is that something is yourself.
Right.
Right. And so when you face the dragon, maybe the truth is you recognize, oh, I am the dragon. The thing that I'm going into the world
Yeah.
to fight is actually me.
Yeah.
There is no dragon. And in fact, if it is a dragon, it's this metaphorical representation of me as strength, as fire, as passion.
Right.
And then you see yourself as this dragon and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm in love with this fucking dragon because it's fucking amazing. And how many times they'll tell you, oh my gosh, I love dragons because they represent something greater than us. But it's because they represent us as greater selves.
I just had that dragon dream a couple nights ago too.
Oh, how did that go?
There were real dragons, but my mother wouldn't believe that there were real dragons out and about.
No, what do you know?
But I'm like, they're her dragons. She just wouldn't have it. I'm just like, there's a dragon.
Yeah, right.
But they were dragons in a good way, not like they were not bad. They were not Game of Thrones dragons. Aren't Chinese dragons are good dragons, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're like that.
Yeah. No, but in this case, I think in Joseph Campbell's case, I think that dragon is our self.
I think so. I think that is probably what he meant by it too.
Yeah, no, I think he meant by it, but then like I don't actually know if his hero journey has him slaying the dragon.
He overcomes the obstacle, whatever the obstacle is.
Yeah,
he doesn't die on that journey either.
The hero doesn't die.
Right.
Yeah, no, I know because he comes back. But in this case, the slaying of the dragon, in Joseph Campbell's case, is actually slaying of the ego. I think that is what he wanted to be represented as. But the ego is not actually ego. It's just the ego is there.
Slaying the ego is integrating yourself.
Yeah, the ego is the thing, is the center blocks that keep you from not acknowledging your truth. The ego is actually the center blocks that you lay on there not to go, guess what? I'm just fucking broken. Because the ego will never allow you to admit to yourself being a broken child because you spend your entire 40 years running away from admittance of that.
Yeah.
Right. And so when you acknowledge yourself, you integrate the dragon, you integrate your strength within you until you come back home with a fucking dragon. And guess what? You're unstoppable at that point. Against who? Against yourself. So where next time you take that exact same circle, what is that? The snake that is biting its own tail. You're completely integrated and you're more powerful than ever because guess what? You have a fucking dragon as your friend or as yourself. I don't know. I don't eat that. It is always surprising to me how many times I have to say the exact same thing in a billion different ways.
Yeah.
and we're still here, and I'm still coming up with a billion different ways to say the exact same thing,
Yeah.
and we're not moving forward.
No, I know. I feel the frustration as well.
But I said this on thousands, but 69 podcasts before. It is the strength within you. The strength is within you to face your own being. I mean, fuck, you're here because you're supposed to face your own being. That's the whole point of you coming here, is to face yourself. Why are we running away from the whole point of us coming here? Like, that doesn't even make sense. I incarnate here so that I can face myself. And when it comes time for me to face myself, which is my entire life, I'm running away from that. Then you die on your deathbed going, sure is a life lived. That's a long time spending running away from yourself. Like, is that, I don't even know. I don't even want to be in the spot where I go, yeah, I did well running away from myself. Oh, sure did well. But maybe that's it. Maybe some people want to die going, sure did a great job running away from myself. That was a fight I fought and continue to fight, and will fight and fight and fight and fight when I get reborn. How many times? I mean, I think that's it. Again, we're still here, and I'm still saying the same things, but there's nothing else to say. It's just a strength and tenacity, determination to face your own bullshit.
Yeah.
The fact that, this is what I love about it, is the fact that it's my own bullshit means like there's quite literally just me.
Right. There's no one else who can, there's nothing else that can.
But how exciting is that? If you have control issues or whatever, and you're like, oh, I need to go out into the world and find some guru to help me with this shit. No.
Yeah.
You don't. It's quite literally just you willing to face yourself.
Right. The fact that
how amazing is that?
The fact that it's on you, it's like people see that as like, oh, it's scary, and it's on me, and I have all this responsibility and accountability. Yeah, but you have the opportunity to solve it. You have the power. You are empowered to solve it.
Whenever I was, this is what I thought. Whenever I was facing my like unwanted and rejected energy, right? And I'm like, okay, look, here's the situation, and here's the narrative that I'm assigning to it. But in truth is, if I take the narrative up and stand back, I think the behind the narrative is just me not feeling wanted and desired. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, look, here's where it's poking, and just me not wanting and desired. And I'm like, oh, look, I feel all this energy within. And I'm like, yeah, I want to acknowledge and I want to integrate it, but I'm having a hard time overcoming the influx, the personal tenacity that I had prior to this moment of wanting to walk with that as my vibratory frequency of being unwanted and rejected, as opposed to going, no, I am open-hearted and I accept what the world has to offer me. And if I am going to get triggered and unwanted and undesired, then I will face that and I'll go, it is okay. That is how you're feeling in this moment. And it has actually nothing to do with the world, and the truth of it is not true, but that's just how you feel. And I thought to myself, look how difficult it is. But also at the same time, I thought, what an incredible opportunity for me to once again struggle with something that seems so big, and then be able to go, yeah, let's say I'm willing to spend the next 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, hoping to draw awareness on things that will come, that will trigger me into this unwanted and undesired, and then have an opportunity to roll the cycle through and go, oh, look, Tanya, you're triggered again into that. It's okay. It's okay that you're triggered, and next time you'll see it sooner. And next time you will see it sooner. And I'm holding my child's hand who's crying over being unwanted and undesired, and going, it is okay, because we can both together learn to not see that as our truth. I mean, that's it. I mean, it's bringing tears to my eyes because I can feel myself having the love for the child to hold his hand and to teach him a different lesson than I learned when I was 2 years old. That's it. I'm parenting myself into love and acceptance. Okay, that's it. I'm sure we're going to be here on episode 70 once again, talking about the same bullshit.
Guess what just happened?
Yeah, right. But it is this cycle of overcoming self that builds the tenacity and acceleration.
Yeah, it can turn into a self, instead of how it's been, it can turn into a self-reinforcing pattern.
Yes.
Where, okay, it took me a day to snap out of. Okay, it took me 6 hours snap out of, okay, da 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 da. Okay, guess what? I'm in it for 30 seconds. I go, wait a minute, okay, and then I'm like, it's
It's
just
not snapping out of it. It's to giving yourself love, giving your child
yeah,
love.
yes.
But the only thing we need to do is go into ourselves, hold our broken child, and give it love and go, you know what? I'm here. I'm by your side. It is okay. And together we can learn better. We can ascend this spiral of downward shit that we don't even know what the fuck is happening into just simply loving ourselves as we are and seeing past our own narrative of bullshit, really of bullshit, because I'm not wanted and desired. That is not something that I'm walking around in an everyday world even experiencing. But if the child feels that, it is okay. And I'm accepting that. I said, you know what? I don't know why I feel that. It doesn't even make sense. But it is okay because that is what the child wants to communicate to me right now. I, as a child, to myself, want to communicate the fact that right now you feel unwanted and undesired. And I'm here to hold that child's hand and go, it's okay. Let's participate in that narrative. Let's see how it actually feels. Let's acknowledge it. Let's let that pain flow. Let's cry about it. Let's mull over it. Let's just, I don't know, if you want to feel down for a little bit about it, that's fine. But it is okay to acknowledge that is my truth. Yeah. Anyway, I can go on till forever. I'm sure episode 70 will just be another regurgitation of this shit.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening.